Hey everyone, welcome to my video about how to build a budget gaming PC in mid-2019. In this first video, I'll be showing you how to pick out parts and really how to find the best deals on subreddits like the buildapcsales subreddit or Rakuten or using Google Express coupons. And in this first video, I'll be really showing you how to find these deals, buy them, and then in our next video, I'll be showing you how to build this computer. And in our final video, I'll be showing you benchmarks. So let's hop over to the computer and I will start taking you through this. Hey, I just got on the computer and this is the first site that you should probably know about. This is pcpartpicker.com. And this is where you can go to build out and choose all of your CPU and motherboard and every part in your computer. So if you want to view your system build, you'll have all these options to, choose an optical drive, choose software, choose a CPU. So I could start a new part list here and start from scratch, start a new CPU, and it automatically sorts by some of the most popular CPUs. So the Ryzen 5 2600 and the Ryzen 7 2700X are some of the most popular CPUs, and they're at the top here. So let's jump into this build. I'm actually going to bring you through each deal that I found on each of these parts. And the way I found each of these deals were through the buildapc sales subreddit. If you're building a computer, this will be one of your favorite subreddits. And I've actually got it bookmarked for new so that I can see all the new postings as soon as they're up. So one of the useful things that you should know about is the product search tabs. So you've got cases, you've got RAM, PSUs, CPUs, GPUs, motherboard, and this is really helpful if you want to get a feel for what parts are going for what prices. So for example, let's click on RAM, and it looks like 2x 16 gigabytes. It looks like it's about $150 for 32 gigs of RAM, which makes sense. And then, so RAM will also include pre-built if it's in the title somewhere. And so, for example, posted one day ago, this G-Skill Aegis 2x8 gigabytes. This is the RAM that I've chosen for this build. You can also get a better feel for how good a deal is based on how many upvotes it has. So in this case, this has 333 upvotes, which means that it's a pretty decent deal. I would say anything over 100 upvotes is probably worth your time, and anything over a few hundred is a really good deal. So here's another example. 16 gigs of RAM for $67.50 or $68.50 with shipping, which is an insane deal. So I used the buildapc sales subreddit today to help me find some of the best deals on parts for this build. So one of the things that you will see time and time again on this subreddit is deals using Google Express. So here's an example of an M.2 NVMe SSD, the Intel 660p, which was posted today. This is 1 terabyte for just under $100, and it's using the April Save 19 first time purchase on Google Express. So let's open this up, and you can see that if you add this to cart, then you can use I took a screen capture, the 20% off your first order. I actually used that code to buy a Ryzen 3 2200G for this build. So looking over at Amazon, this processor is actually only $95 on Amazon, but if I'm using the 20% off coupon, it's only $80 and you're saving 15 bucks. So that's a really good thing to use. It's a max of $20 off, so buying something for $100 maximizes the disk's discount. So in this case, this was a really good item to use the discount on. The next thing you want to do is choose a motherboard to go along with the CPU that you've just chosen. So in my case, we've chosen a Ryzen 3 2200G, which is a 2000 series Ryzen chip, which means that it requires a B450 or X470 motherboard. One of the guides that I like to use is this AMD post of what the best VRMs are for power delivery to your CPU. Really, all you need to know about VRMs is that the better power delivery a motherboard can offer to a CPU, the better that it can overclock. So if we open up this guide, this is the image, and I'll pull it up here. So it's in a nice table here where we've got the garbage tier, lower end, mid-range, high end, and top tier. So if you're looking for something that's, I believe the Tai Chi is $200 to $300, or the Crosshair, these are really expensive motherboards. If we're looking at a 2200G, we really don't need to be looking for anything higher than mid-range. And in this case, the B450M DS3H by Gigabyte is really one of the best deals you can find on B450 motherboards for Ryzen 2000 series chips. And it's what we'll be going for when we build this computer. I would say the most important thing is when you're picking a motherboard, unless you're choosing a 2600 or 2700 or the X variants of those chips, I'm going to say that it really doesn't matter if you get a lower end or mid-range board. I will say though, if you're looking for a really highly OC'd 2700X, then you really do need to get a high-end or top-tier motherboard. The cheapest price I could find on the Gigabyte B450M DS3H motherboard was on Amazon for $73. You can also install a price history extension like Keepa, or use camelcamelcamel.com to look up the price history of Amazon items. And if I sort this by all past 262 days, with the exception of when this first came out at $70 and dropped to $60, for recent times, for the past 3 months, $72 is actually a pretty decent price. I've actually bought this motherboard at $80 before. After you've chosen now your processor and your motherboard, I would recommend going back to the buildapcsales subreddit and sorting by RAM. And I looked through all the deals for the past few days, and this was one of the best deals posted in the past few days. It was posted 3 days ago. Unfortunately, it looks like the deal has ended because it's no longer $67. And it looks like this is the next best deal that I was able to get. So I ordered the G-Skill Aegis 2x8 gigabyte kit. It's also CL17. So it's got some pretty slow timings. But the reason I picked it out was it's $73 right now, which is a really good deal. And it's only a voltage of 1.2 volts, which RAM normally runs at 1.35. Part of the reason I knew that RAM runs at 1.35 volts is because I referred back to the original post on the buildapcsales subreddit, and there was this top most upvoted comment that talks about overclocking the RAM. So it's really important that if you have any questions about any of the parts that you're about to buy, to look back at the original post on the buildapcsales subreddit, and you can usually find people talking about the pros and cons of that particular part. One of the things to look out for is probably on Rakuten, ADATA makes XPG Gamix D10 RAM, and this is $82 without a coupon. And I've seen this go down to $70 with the coupon, which they usually put up about maybe every other week. So this is a really good deal at the moment, and this is pretty reliable RAM. I've used this in a few builds in the past. Generally speaking, getting DDR4 3000 speed at a CL of 16 or 15 is usually going to give you the best bang for buck. So that's what I'd recommend getting. And in addition to that, there are usually the best deals for that speed of RAM. Finally, the last thing I want to say about RAM is that 2x8GB sticks are usually going to be your best deal. For example, if I scroll down the buildapc sales subreddit, one of the best deals for 8GB of RAM is this Team T-Force Delta RGB series. It's DDR4 3000 speed for $45 at 2x4GB. Right now, 16 gigs of RAM in a 2x8GB configuration is going to usually net you the best bang for your buck. Now that I've taken you through what to look out for in RAM, I want to take you through Numax's guide on how to pick out SSDs. So if you spend any amount of time on the buildapc sales subreddit, you will see user Numax show up quite a bit anytime there's a conversation about SSDs. And he's actually made an SSD buying guide, which I will link below in the description. And I'm going to open it up here, and you can see that he's made a really good flow chart of how to pick the best SATA or NVMe SSD. If you don't know the difference between SATA and NVMe, basically NVMe is usually faster and typically more expensive because it's faster. That being said, top performance SATA drives can be even more expensive than budget NVMe drives. So it really just depends on what you're looking for. One of the things that's really important is getting a solid state drive with DRAM. What is DRAM? I don't know, but it's really important for having DRAM in an SSD if you're putting your operating system on that SSD. So SSDs is another great item to look through the buildapc sales subreddit for a good sale. So I sorted by SSD, limited my search to that, and I'm cross-checking some of these SSD sales with Numax's guide on picking the best SSD for your budget. As time goes on, you'll get to know what makes a really good SSD and what makes a good deal for them. Generally speaking, at the moment, if you can get 1 terabyte for under $100, that's a pretty good deal. So for example, this is a 1 terabyte PCIe Express NVMe drive for $85 using the Google Express code. And that's an insane deal. On the other hand, here's another one for $80. This is the ADATA SU630, and it's just under 1 terabyte of storage for $80, which, if you consider that the SU630 doesn't have DRAM and it's kind of an older SSD, it's priced appropriately. So as I was scrolling down, one of the things I found was the Team Group L5 Lite 3D 240GB SATA SSD, and it has DRAM. If you don't know if something has DRAM, look it up in the specifications or look it up in the search bar. So for the Team Group 240GB SSD, what I did was go to the reviews and I searched DRAM and scroll through, and pros, one of the cheapest drives with DRAM cache. And that's how you can verify, that's generally speaking, that's how you can verify if an SSD has DRAM. Generally speaking, I think that it's a great idea to go with a small SSD for your operating system and some of your most important and most used programs, and then buying a hard drive, such as the Hitachi 3TB 7200 RPM hard drive off of eBay, and using that for mass storage such as games or video footage. And typically speaking, a 1TB or a 2TB hard drive, the cheapest you're going to find them is maybe $30, maybe $40. And generally speaking, Hitachi is one of the best brands in the world for longevity of hard drives, and Hitachi 3TB drives are only $50 brand new. So this is where I'd recommend you buy hard drives if you need that extra storage. And I think it's really worth upgrading to 3TB rather than spending, say, $40 on 2TB. You could really just spend an extra $10 and get 3TB of storage. If you're really pinched for money, I would probably buy a manufacturer refurbished Hitachi 3TB drive for $44 before you buy something like a 2TB brand new drive for $40. I want to come back to our PC part picker guide and come over here to see what the rated wattage is for our build. So in our case, we're only going to be pulling about 86 watts. So we really don't need a power supply that's very big. Generally speaking, a 450 watt power supply will power enough upgrades that if you need any more than that, you'll know that you need more. I looked through Amazon and Newegg and a few different sites, and the cheapest price I could find was $40 for this 450 watt BR EVGA power supply, and it's also bronze rated. When it comes to ratings on power supplies, generally speaking, bronze is what you want to be looking for. Gold is probably a bit overkill for most people, and white is a step down from bronze, which is still good, but bronze is usually the go-to level of certification for power supplies. The other thing to look out for is modular or non-modular power supplies. So in this case, this is a non-modular power supply, which means that all the cables come pre-plugged in. And this means that when you're building in your case, you really just have to be good with cable management and stuff all the extra cables somewhere so that they're not blocking airflow. So speaking of airflow, one of the last things that we have to pick is a case. Now, I have personally not built in this case, but I've been wanting to build in this case. This is the Cougar MX330 mid-tower case. I watched a review that seems to be really positive with this case, and I will leave a link to that review in the description below. And I'll tell you why I like this case so much. First of all, it's got these 2 USB 2 and 2 USB 3 headers right on the front for easy access. That's really important for me as a content creator. Next up, I really like the glass side panel, or in this case, it's acrylic because glass was $10 more. And one of the other really important things to me is that it's got some really good airflow. So on the front, this is a mesh panel that can hold up to 2 front-facing fans, and then there's room for 2 fans on top, and there's room for a fan right here on the back. And let me see if there's some more better photos. So it also has a power supply shroud, so the power supply would go right about here and then run the cables up behind the case. So you can see here's the back of the case, and this is where the power supply goes. This is the back of the case, and cords run up here to the motherboard and through these holes here, and this is where you can mount some extra SSDs. You know, this is a really well-built case from what I can tell, and I'm really excited to build in it. Some other options for budget cases with good airflow would include the Fractal Focus G. This is the black version, and then the Fractal Design FD Focus. This is basically the white version. The one thing I'll say is that I've heard that this gap here between the power supply and the 3.5-inch hard drive bays can be a little tight. And then finally, if you're just looking for something really budget, this is a really great micro ATX mini tower, the Thermaltake Versa H15. Now, it's got a solid case side, so you really can't show off your build anyway. One of the positive things is it comes with a 120 millimeter fan pre-installed, which means that you really only need to buy one more fan to put in the front. Now, if we look at the back side, there's plenty of room for cable management. If we look at the front, it's really open. You know, it may get a little tight there with the power supply pushing up against the 3.5-inch hard drive bays. I personally wouldn't pay anything more than $35 or $40 for this case. And if you're looking to go ultra budget, you can look at some of the Roswell ATX or micro ATX mini tower cases. I have built in this case. This is really easy to build in. I really like that it's got 4 ports for front I/O, and I really like that it comes with 2 pre-installed fans, which is really the max amount of fans that you can put on the front and back, other than putting them on the side there. And generally speaking, I thought this was pretty decent to build in. I really liked it. And for $40, I don't think it's worth it. It's worth it at $30 though, which it has dropped to last month. Finally, I really just wanted to add some extra pizzazz to this build, and I'm going to do that by adding the up here RGB case series fans. And these are 120 millimeter RGB fans with a remote control that you can use wirelessly. So the pans plug into this fan hub, and I'm really excited to use this. I think that it can produce some really good results. I want to get something similar to this. It's going to have 2 fans on the front and two fans up top and 1 in the back. And I think this is going to look really good in this Cougar MX330 mid-tower case. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching my video of how to pick out all your parts for your budget gaming PC in mid-2019. I was really happy to bring you this video because one of the things that I really like is picking out all these computer parts and making your dollar go that extra mile using the buildapc sales subreddit. So one of the things that I wanted to stress is that this particular build that I've put together has a very clear upgrade path, and the motherboards are supported until 2020. So with Ryzen 3000 chips coming out later this year, this is a very future-proof type of build. So if you have any other questions, make sure to look at the description. I've left a very detailed description about all of the parts. I've left links to everything I've mentioned in this video. And if you have any further questions, please feel free to leave a comment. And I really invite you to join me in the next video of this series, where we will be building the computer that I spec'd out in this video. So please feel free to subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you so much.